925 has been out for a couple of weeks, and we still don't know when Season 4 will start. All we got was later this summer, in line with the usual soon TM. And with the Dragonflight internal alpha seemingly underway, there hasn't been a lot of focus on Season 4, at least not from my extensive research. It's going to be interesting to see if these experiments will work and follow us into Dragonflight in some form. So here's a rundown of what to expect from Season 4, coming soon, TM. The new Mythic Plus season gives us a new affix, format changes, and impacts gearing quite heavily. If you didn't already know, the Shadowlands dungeons are being removed from the Mythic Plus pool, and with the exception of Tazavesh being replaced by Mechagon, Karazhan, Grimrail Depot, and Iron Docks. This drops the dungeon count from 10 back down to 8, which is both good and bad. The bad is less dungeon variety within the current season, but it is offset by the fact that 75% of them are different dungeons anyway. The good is there's less work to do to push your overall score. Having fewer dungeons in the current score system means that there's less to do for seasonal rewards and less pressure to get them all done during push weeks. And they were nice enough to make portals to them in Oribos without us having to beg. With the new season also comes a new seasonal affix, Shrouded, and for once it seems like they've learned a lesson. This new affix puts Dreadlords in trash packs, and killing them gives you a permanent 2% buff to a stat of your choice, which you choose before you start, unless you choose Mastery, which is a flat 69.
Nice.
When they die, you also get a buff that gives health and mana so healers can stop crying when you kill the wrong relic because they chose not to drink. What am I going to do? Stop pressing bombs? There's also a mini-boss that's a little bit harder in a set location in each dungeon. The basic bitch Dreadlords have a frontal, a sleep cloud, and a single target healing tank hit, similar to the Lords of Dread mechanics. The Chad Lord is a little different. It gives the tank a stacking magic dot, has a blood barrier like Hakar, and a big cast during the barrier that deals damage and reduces healing by 70%. Pretty simple, break the barrier, interrupt the cast. It also summons a bat which makes one player hostile like the Among Us mechanic. Kill them or the bat to break it, so make sure to CC your friends before you kill it. And killing the mini-boss will give you 3 buff stacks and restore you all to full health and mana. Now this affix seems pretty simple, and the Trash Lords are pretty easy to manage and cleave down, but it is similar to Encrypted in that you actually want to find and kill as many as you can for the buff, or at least as many as diminishing returns will allow. These Mythic Plus changes also have a significant effect on gear. Most of the expansion gear has come from Mythic Plus farming, including impactful trinkets like IQD, Ruby, and Changeling. It's currently unclear what the new loot tables will look like for the returning dungeons, if we will see a return of things like the Mechagon braces and ring sets. Hopefully this will mean a change to Bisque gear lists, but a worry is that the trinkets we have now will still be better at the lower item level and won't be replaced. And unless there are any on-use stat trinkets in the new dungeon, we may never be rid of IQD giving you heal and mana after you pop all of your CDs. No news about Valor resetting or reintroducing the cap, but considering we only just had it removed, hopefully they won't put it back for this weird half season. And tier sets in the creation catalyst will still be active with all of the charges, so it'll be easy time crafting your tier set at the new max level. The new level jump will be Mythic Zeros giving you 265, your max Vault giving you 304 for a 15, and the max rank of Mythic Plus gear will probably be 297. Normal raid gear drops at 278, Heroic at 291, and Mythic at 304, with the last 3 bosses dropping 285, 297, and 311 respectively. And now onto the raid changes. The new raid format is called Fated. Instead of a new raid, we're getting all 3 Shadowlands raids made somewhat relevant with additional mechanics. Each week, one of the 3 raids will be fated and have this mark next to it, meaning that it will be scaled up, drop Season 4 gear, and have a series of extra mechanics on the boss fights, though we don't know exactly what they will look like. First is Chaotic Essence, a neutral mob that chain casts raid-wide damage until you interrupt or attack it. It then spawns motes which channel onto players and splits into more motes when you kill them. After 15 seconds, they all disappear and give everyone a 2% damage, healing, and absorbs buff based on how many you kill. Say you kill 1 per second, that's a 30% buff for 25 seconds. Second is Creation Spark, a dispellable dot on someone that throws out soaks when you dispel it. If you soak a spark, you gain 10% cast speed, attack speed, cooldown recharge rate, and tick rate, as well as 15% movement speed for 20 seconds. And it stacks, so definitely don't bribe your raid leader to let you soak as many as you can. If you don't soak, each one will put a stacking dot on the raid, so don't let them hit the floor. Third is Protoform Barrier, which puts a dispellable buff on the boss and makes them deal raid-wide damage, and this sounds like it'll be at set times during a fight. When removed, it spawns 2 ads and puts a shared absorb shield on all enemies for 15 seconds. One ad can be healed so your healers aren't sat watching the DPS have all the fun as normal. When you break the shield, all the damage and healing is dealt back to the enemies, so blowing cooldowns into it isn't a waste of time. And you get a buff increasing damage, healing, and absorbs done by 25%, so maybe you want to try and hold as much as you can and use your CDs with the buff afterwards. If you don't break the shield though, it does raid-wide damage and puts a dot on everyone, like the Anduin Monstrous Soul or the Fate Scribe tank ad. Last is Reconfiguration Emitter, spawning an ad which chain casts and is immune to damage until you interrupt it. Each cast does raid-wide damage and gives it a stacking damage buff, while interrupting it reduces the raid-wide damage by a lot. When you kill it, you get a buff based on how many stacks it has, giving up to 10% verse and crit, 10 mastery, though this could be a typo or a placeholder, and 8 avoidance. While these aren't groundbreakingly interesting, they are at least not your standard Mythic Plus affix, with each one giving the raid some kind of buff instead of just making things more annoying. What is more interesting is the new raid loot vendors they've added. As only one raid will be fated per week, looting important shit like trinkets and weapons will be even harder. harder, as you only get one chance every 3 weeks. To offset this, at least somewhat, we now have vendors with every trinket and weapon from each raid, which you can buy using a new coin item. But hold your excitement, because we need the usual Blizzard cheapness to go with it. These coins come from 3 quests, to kill 30, 20, and 10 fated bosses, with each reward being a coin. This means it'll take a minimum of 3 weeks to get 1 coin, and 6 weeks for all 3. And you get 3 coins total, so you can only buy 3 items. Clearly Blizzard think playing more than one spec is for tryhards, so if you do, I guess you're kind of fucked. What you can do though is upgrade your gear. Another gear experiment this season is the ability to upgrade your raid loot using another new currency called shards. These shards will drop from raid bosses from week 1 of the new season with a 100% drop rate. You combine 20 shards to make an upgrade token, and it sounds like it's based on the difficulty, so 20 heroic shards for a heroic eye level upgrade and 20 mythic shards for a mythic upgrade. You can only loot shards off a boss once, so you can't farm every difficulty. At 1 shard per boss, even if you are able to full clear on mythic, it'll be 2 full weeks to upgrade 1 item. Hopefully this is more like Stygian Embers, where higher difficulties give you more. It's still a little vague as how they will work, but their willingness to try out new looting options is interesting. The big question though with all of this is, will it all work? With no cutting edge or ahead of the curve, and the dungeons all being from previous content, players may not be interested in the new season, though it does beat a straight up content drought. These are some big changes, and experimental in Blizzard's own words, so whether they work or not will surely influence some of their design decisions in Dragonflight and beyond. Giving more player agency is something they've struggled to do over the last 2 expansions, with most of their systems being held back by their own stubbornness to allow us to play the game we want. And with these changes, they aren't just trying to increase the flexibility of the way we play, but also affecting some of the fundamental parts of the game, like raid loot acquisition. The Season 4 experiment, coupled with the news about Dragonflight development, seems to indicate a willingness to move away from their old style. Hopefully we won't see a return of their rhetoric in the Shadowlands beta of "we hear you, but we disagree." I guess we'll have to see when the alpha actually comes out. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one.